turns red, don't look at the forest. And whatever you hear calling your name, don't answer. But warnings mean little to those whose fate is already written. That night, Lyra stood at the threshold of Ravenwood, trembling, breathless, clutching a pendant that pulsed with faint silver light. It had belonged to her grandmother. The same grandmother who used to sit by the fire and whisper stories about alphas, wolves, witches, and fated mates. The same grandmother who, on her final night, had held Lyra's hand with feverish strength and whispered, "When the moon bleeds red, your destiny awakens. But beware, child. The Alpha who seeks you walks with both love and death." Lyra had tried to forget those words, but ever since her grandmother's burial, the dreams had started. Dreams of glowing silver eyes in the dark. Dreams of chains and howls and a man's voice calling her name as if his life depended on it. 3 months of waking with tears on her cheeks and the taste of iron on her tongue. 3 months of feeling an invisible thread pulling her toward the forest. Tonight, she couldn't resist it anymore. Above her, the moon hung heavy and swollen, tinged with the faintest smear of crimson, like a wound not fully healed. Lyra swallowed and tightened her grip on the pendant. "I'm not afraid," she whispered to herself. It was a lie. Her heart hammered so hard it hurt, but beneath the fear was something else, a deep, aching curiosity, a feeling that if she turned back now, something inside her would die. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine, and under it, something else, smoke, rain, and something wild. The pendant warmed against her palm, the silver stone beating in rhythm with her heart. Lightning split the sky, turning the forest into a jagged silhouette. For a second, Lyra thought she saw eyes in the darkness, watching, waiting. She blinked, and they were gone. She took a step forward. The forest seemed to exhale. At the edge of Ravenwood Forest, where mist crawled like memory, nightfall arrived too soon. The villagers of Eldon's Hollow had many stories about the forest. They said the woods were haunted, that an unexplainable curse slept beneath its roots. They said the trees remembered every scream, every broken promise, every soul that never came back. They warned each other in hushed voices, "Before we go deeper into the shadows." Welcome to Moonbound Whispers, where destiny meets the forbidden. Here, every heartbeat hides a secret. We tell stories of forbidden love, unexplainable forces, and souls bound by fate. If you crave paranormal romance, alpha and fated mate tales, and whispers from beyond the veil, you are exactly where you're meant to be. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice keeps these whispers alive. Now, take a deep breath. Let's return to the forest. Lyra stepped past the first line of trees. The air changed immediately, cooler, denser, heavier with secrets. The village behind her faded into a blur of noise and memory. In here, the world was made of shadows and the sound of her own breath. Her boots sank softly into the moss. Branches creaked overhead. The deeper she walked, the brighter her pendant glowed, casting pale light on twisted roots and gnarled bark. "Show me then," she whispered to the dark, "whatever it is you want me to see." The forest didn't answer with words, but the wind curled around her like a question. Somewhere ahead, unseen eyes opened. Something, someone, had just realized. She had finally come. Deep within Ravenwood, where sunlight had not touched the ground in years, a lone figure stood motionless among the trees. Kael, the Alpha of the Silver Veil Pack, guardian of Ravenwood, prisoner of a curse older than most of the stars he'd stopped counting. His eyes, a molten silver, cut through the shadows as easily as moonlight. He heard the forest first, the change in its breathing, the way the branches shivered with a new kind of anticipation. Something, someone, had crossed the boundary. Her. For centuries, the curse had wrapped its claws around his heart, dragging him through cycle after cycle of hope and ruin. Every time his fated mate found him, Every time he dared to believe the goddess had relented, she died, before the dawn. Every single time. Sacrificed by the Witch of Ravenwood, bound to him by blood and spite. The witch who had once loved him and could not bear to see him love another. Love was his punishment. The unexplainable cruelty of the curse, to feel the bond, to taste a future, and then to watch it die before the sun rose. He had tried everything. He had tried to hide, tried to break the bond, tried to erase himself from the world of humans. He had vanished from their legends, leaving behind only whispered tales of a cursed Alpha and a hungry forest. But fate was stubborn, and tonight he smelled lavender and storm. Her scent hit him like a wave, cutting through layers of time and denial. His wolf snarled inside him, surging to the surface, not with anger, with recognition, with need. He closed his eyes and heard it again, the voice that had haunted every sleepless night. She's coming. Not the witch's voice, not the goddess's. His own memory, echoing back every time destiny turned its gaze toward him. Kael tipped his head back and inhaled, every muscle in his body going tight. Not again, he muttered, a rough growl beneath the words. I won't watch another one die. But the forest around him disagreed. The trees leaned in closer, as if urging him toward her. The wind carried her heartbeat, faint but steady, through the leaves. Thump, 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 thump. He could ignore many things, but not that. He shifted, bones lengthening, muscles reshaping, fur bursting along his skin. In moments, the man was gone. A massive silver wolf stood in his place, eyes glowing like twin moons. Without another thought, the Alpha ran toward her. Lyra was soaked through within minutes. The canopy above her did little to stop the rain. It slid down leaves and dropped in cold beads that ran over her face and neck. She shivered, but not from the cold. The deeper she walked, the stronger the feeling became, as though invisible fingers hooked into her chest, tugging her forward. This is insane, she muttered. I'm talking to trees. Wonderful. Truly. But still, she walked. Her pendant burned warmer against her skin now, and every so often she caught flashes in the corner of her vision, a shadow that moved against the wind, a shape that vanished when she turned her head. She stepped over a fallen log, and her boot caught on a root. With a startled cry, she pitched forward. The world tilted. She braced for the impact, the crack of bone, the taste of dirt. It never came. A hand caught her mid-fall, large, strong, warm. It closed around her wrist with inhuman speed and unshakable steadiness. Lyra's breath hitched. Slowly, she looked up and saw him. He stood towering over her, partially framed by the crooked trees and the flashing sky. Dark hair, damp and wild from the rain, sharp, carved features that looked like they had been hewn from stone and softened only by exhaustion. And his eyes. His eyes glowed silver. Not a trick of the lightning, not a reflection. They glowed. Lyra froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Let go, she whispered, though she didn't pull back. Careful what you wish for, the man said, his voice low and rough, like thunder rolling over distant hills. He eased her back onto her feet, but didn't immediately release her wrist. Something flickered across his face. Confusion? Recognition? Fear? Lyra swallowed. You're not from the village, she said. No, he replied simply. Who are you? He hesitated, as if the answer weighed more than a name should. Kael, he said at last. The name slid into her like a key into a lock. Her dreams stirred. Chains rattled. The image of a man bound in moonlight flashed behind her eyes. She swayed. Kael's grip tightened instinctively. You shouldn't be here, he said, voice dropping even lower. This forest is not for humans. Too late, Lyra breathed. I'm already here. His gaze swept over her. The soaked clothes, the trembling hands, the pendant glowing against her throat. His eyes narrowed. Who gave you that? He asked. My grandmother, Lyra replied. Why? Kael's jaw clenched. Of course. The old woman had found a way to guide her here. The goddess always found her messengers. You need to turn back, he said. Now. Lyra dragged in a shaky breath. I can't. Can't, he repeated, almost to himself. Or won't. She met his gaze head-on, silver crashing against human brown. I've seen you, she whispered. For months, in my sleep, in chains, calling my name. I thought I was losing my mind, but it's you, isn't it? The question hung between them like lightning about to strike. Kael exhaled slowly. You were never meant to find me, he said. Not like this. He released her wrist, and Lyra felt the loss like a physical ache. The forest was so quiet now, she could hear the rain hitting leaves one drop at a time. If you stay, Kael said, you'll die. Lyra's throat worked. Maybe, she replied. But if I leave, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering why your eyes are the only ones I see when I close mine. Thunder rumbled overhead. For the first time in a very long time, Kael didn't know what to do. They walked. Not side by side exactly, but close enough for Lyra to feel his presence like a storm hovering beside her. Where are we going? She asked. Away from the border, Kael said. The forest doesn't like indecision. Forest can't like or dislike anything. This one can. Lyra glanced at him. I'm not turning back, she said. You should know that by now. He grunted, but didn't argue. As they moved deeper into Ravenwood, the world around them changed. The air vibrated with a low, humming energy. Old symbols glowed faintly on rocks and tree trunks, runes Lyra didn't recognize, but somehow felt in her bones. The pendant at her neck grew almost too hot to touch. Why me? She asked finally. Out of everyone the curse could have chosen, why me? Kael was silent for a long moment. Because fate is cruel, he said, and because you've done this before. Lyra frowned. What do you mean, before? He looked at her, rain dripping from his lashes. This isn't the first lifetime our paths have crossed, he said quietly. Every time the moon turns red and the bond awakens, you find me. Scenes flickered through her mind. A woman in a crimson dress running through the woods. A healer with ink-stained hands feeding herbs to a wounded wolf. A warrior, sword in hand, standing between a man and a witch's fire. The faces were different. The eyes were always hers. Lyra staggered, grabbing a tree trunk to steady herself. I don't remember all of that, she whispered. You remember enough, Kael said. She looked at him then, really looked, and beneath the strength and hardness she saw layers of old pain stacked like stones. How many times? She asked. How many times did I... His jaw tightened. Enough for me to know how this ends, he replied. With me dead. The words hung there, heavy and merciless. Lyra's fingers curled reflexively around the pendant. Who did this to you? She asked. To us. Kael's gaze darkened. The Witch of Ravenwood, he said. Once a priestess of the goddess, once my friend, maybe more if I had not chosen differently. She cursed you because you loved someone else, Lyra said slowly. Yes, Kael replied. And now, every time my true mate finds me, the curse ensures I lose her before dawn. The more we accept the bond, the faster the curse kills. Lyra stared at him. And you still came to find me, she said, knowing that. His eyes flashed, pain and defiance mixed. I tried to stay away, he said, but fate keeps dragging us into the same story. Lyra's heart ached, not just for herself, but for the weight he carried. For once, she said softly, what if we write a different ending? The forest trembled around them, as if offended by the suggestion. Wind whipped through the branches, thunder cracked. Lyra stepped closer. "I am not a passive piece on someone's cursed game board," she whispered. "I choose you, Kael. Curse or no curse." Her words struck something inside him that had long been petrified. He reached up without fully meaning to, his fingers brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. The moment his skin touched her, the world changed. Heat flared between them, sharp and consuming. A thread of light snapped into existence, stretching from his chest to hers. Lyra gasped as visions rushed over her again, a temple lit by candles, two hands intertwined, a witch watching, eyes burning with hurt. Her knees buckled. Kael caught her, again. "Easy," he murmured, his voice gentler now. "What was that?" Lyra whispered. "The bond," Kael said, fully awake. The forest screamed. Somewhere, far deeper in the woods, something old and angry opened its eyes. The curse had felt it too. They reached a clearing Lyra hadn't noticed from the path. The ground there was darker, the soil turned almost black. Strange symbols were carved into stone pillars, forming a crude circle. "Where are we?" Lyra asked. "The heart of it," Kael said. "This is where she tied the curse to the land." As if summoned by his words, the air grew heavy. Red light seeped up from the cracks in the earth, like blood rising to the surface. Lyra's pendant pulsed frantically. A voice floated through the clearing, cold and amused. "You always were dramatic, Kael." From the center of the circle, a figure began to form, not from flesh, but from smoke and shadow. The Witch of Ravenwood. Her hair flowed like liquid night. Her eyes were pale, almost white, but burning with tragic fury. "Bringing her here so quickly," the witch mused, looking Lyra up and down. "You must be getting tired of the waiting." Kael stepped in front of Lyra automatically. "This ends now," he said. "I won't let you kill her again." The witch tilted her head. "You won't let me," she repeated softly. "You think you have a say in how this story ends?" She looked past him, directly at Lyra. "Do you know how many times you've died for him?" she asked. Lyra swallowed but didn't look away. "No," she said. "Do you?" For a flicker of a moment, something like regret passed through the witch's gaze. "Yes," she said. "Every time." She lifted a hand. The runes on the ground flared brighter. "You were never meant for him," the witch said to Lyra. "You were meant to prove a point, that even the strongest Alpha can be brought to his knees by the one thing he cannot control." "Love," Kael said bitterly. "Choice," the witch corrected. "He chose you over everything else, his power, his duty, me." Lyra's eyes widened. "You loved him," she whispered. The witch laughed, but the sound cracked at the edges. "Love is too small a word for what I felt," she said. "I would have remade the world for him. He chose to love someone mortal, someone fragile, someone who could leave him, by choice or by time." Her gaze hardened. "So I made sure his love could never last, that every time he found you, the curse would remind him what it costs to prefer mortality over power." Lyra stepped around Kael, ignoring his warning growl. "And yet," Lyra said, voice shaking but steady, "here we are, still finding each other, still walking into the fire." The witch's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what you're offering," she said. "If you claim the bond fully, the curse demands balance. Pain for pain, life for life." Lyra's throat was dry. "What happens if I accept it?" she asked. "Truly accept it." The witch smiled slowly. "You die before dawn," she said. "But the curse dies with you." Silence crashed over the clearing. Kael moved forward, fury blazing in his gaze. "No," he growled. "You're not touching her." The witch flicked her fingers. Invisible force slammed into him, throwing him back. He hit the ground with a snarl, struggling to rise. Lyra's heart shattered at the sound. "Stop," she said. "Stop hurting him." The witch looked at her again. "You don't have to do this," the witch said. "Turn around. Leave this forest. Let him remain bound to his choices." Lyra looked at Kael, at the man who had been cursed to watch her die over and over, who had still come for her, still tried to protect her. Tears blurred her vision. "I'm tired," she said quietly, "of running in circles I don't remember, of punishing him for a choice he made lifetimes ago, of being afraid of a story that always ends the same way." She stepped into the circle of red light. Kael roared her name. "Lyra, no!" The witch's eyes widened slightly. "You don't know what you're giving up," the witch said. Lyra wiped at her cheeks. "I know enough," she said. She lifted the pendant from her chest. The stone was almost white-hot now, shining like a captured star. "If love is the curse," Lyra said, "then let me be the one who carries it to its end." She closed her fingers around the pendant and whispered, "I accept." The world exploded in light. Lyra felt herself falling. Not down, just away. Away from the forest. Away from her body. Away from Kael's desperate shout. For a moment there was nothing but weightless dark. Then a voice. Not the witch's. Not Kael's. Something older. "You choose this freely." Lyra tried to speak. Her voice felt like it came from somewhere very far away. "Yes," she said. "Not because of a curse. Because I'm done letting fear decide for me." Images rippled around her like reflections in broken mirrors. All the lives she'd lived. All the times she'd run toward him without knowing why. All the endings written in blood and silence. "You would give one life," the voice said, "to end 1,000 unfinished stories." Lyra's heart clenched. "I'm not giving it away," she said. "I'm trading it." "For what?" "For freedom," Lyra answered. "For him, for me, for whoever we might be if we ever get to live without your curse hanging over our heads." The darkness hummed. "You understand there is a price," the voice said. "Curses do not end without echoes." Lyra didn't hesitate. "Let the echo fall on me," she said. "Leave him out of it." Silence. Then, very softly, "So be it." Light slammed back into her. Pain followed. Her body felt like it was burning from the inside out and freezing at the same time. She dimly heard someone screaming and realized it was herself. Then, nothing. When sound returned, it came as a whisper. "Lyra, Lyra, please." Kael's voice. She felt arms around her, a weight against her forehead, the pounding of a heart under her cheek. She forced her eyes open. His face swam into view, broken and unguarded. "Am I?" she croaked. "Alive," Kael said, his voice raw. "You're alive." She blinked, trying to focus. "What happened?" Kael glanced around the clearing. The red light was gone. The runes had gone dark, etched scars instead of burning wounds. The witch was nowhere. "She's gone," Kael said quietly. "The curse. It's gone." Lyra tried to sit up. The world tilted. He steadied her gently. Something tingled on her skin. She looked down. A faint silver pattern shimmered across her forearm, a mark shaped like a crescent moon wrapped in a wolf's paw. "What is this?" she asked. "The mark of the Alpha," Kael said. "And something more. You've taken part of the forest into you. A tether." Lyra frowned. "A tether to what?" To this place, Kael said. To the magic that once bound the curse. It's different now. Quieter, but not gone. Lyra swallowed. So I'm bound here, she said softly. Kael's jaw flexed. Not like I was, he said quickly. You won't die if you leave, but you'll feel it. A pull, a homesickness of the soul. Lyra let that sink in. A life half belonging to the forest, half belonging to herself. Not the freedom she imagined, but not a cage of someone else's bitterness either. Is that the echo? She asked. The price? Kael nodded once. You took the weight of it, he said. All of it. Her chest tightened. Good, she said, surprising herself. I'd rather carry it than watch you break under it for another lifetime. His eyes closed briefly, pained. You shouldn't have chosen me, he said. She reached up, cupping his face with trembling fingers. I didn't choose you, she whispered. We chose each other, long before tonight. Their foreheads touched. For the first time, the bond between them didn't burn like a wound. It glowed, warm, steady, heavy with both love and loss. Morning crept over Ravenwood in thin lines of gold. The forest felt different, lighter in some ways, heavier in others. The mist that had clung to the ground for decades lifted, curling up into the air like smoke leaving a burned-out fire. From the edge of the village, a few early risers looked toward the forest and frowned. The trees looked the same, but something in the way they stood felt less hungry. They didn't know why. They only knew the old stories felt a little thinner, like paper left too long in the sun. Still, they whispered. About the silver wolf and the white wolf seen running side by side through the trees. About a woman with strange eyes who sometimes appeared at the edge of the forest and vanished when anyone blinked. They said the forest was no longer haunted, but that wasn't entirely true. In the heart of Ravenwood, Lyra stood in the clearing where the curse had broken. The mark on her arm tingled faintly, in time with the rustling of the leaves. She could feel everything now. When a branch broke miles away, when rain kissed the highest canopy, when a frightened animal darted between roots. The forest wasn't a prison. It was a living, breathing responsibility. Regretting your trade yet? Kael asked softly behind her. She smiled faintly and turned. He stood there in human form, leaning against a tree like he had all the time in the world. The curse was gone from his eyes, but something else had taken its place, a quiet, enduring sadness that came from knowing what it had cost. Sometimes, Lyra admitted honestly, when I think about the life I could have had, the places I'll probably never go now, the people I'll never meet. He walked up to her, steps slow, respectful. And yet you stay, he said. She shrugged one shoulder. The forest gets loud when I'm too far, she said, like a child calling its mother. Besides, she looked up at him. You're here. A small, surprised smile tugged at his mouth. That I am, he said. They walked together through the trees, side by side. He showed her the hidden paths only wolves knew. She showed him the quiet places where the tether hummed most softly and the magic felt almost gentle. They didn't speak of happily ever after, not the way humans usually did. Their ending was not perfect. Lyra would always belong to two worlds and never fully to either. Kael would always carry the memory of lifetimes where he lost her, but for the first time, the story wasn't ending in blood and silence. It was continuing, different, bittersweet, haunting. At the very edge of the forest, where trees thinned and fields began, Lyra paused. The village lay beyond, small houses, narrow streets, smoke curling from chimneys. She could walk down there. She could step back into the life she had before. But even now she felt the pull, a soft hand at her back, urging her to stay in the shade. Go, Kael said quietly beside her. If you want to. She looked at him. Will you be here when I come back? She asked. His answer was simple. Always. She nodded. I won't be long, she said, though she didn't know if that was true. She took one step out from under the trees. The mark on her arm burned, not in pain, in reminder of what she had traded, of what she had saved, of the bond that stretched between her and the forest, and the man inside it. She smiled to herself. Love was the curse, she murmured, and the cure. Then she walked toward the village, the whispers of Ravenwood following her like a soft, unseen echo. Behind her, in the shadows of the trees, silver eyes watched patiently, waiting, knowing that no matter how far she went, when nightfall came and the moon rose, her footsteps would find their way back. And if you stand at the edge of Ravenwood on a crimson-tinted night, if you listen closely to the wind weaving through the branches, you might hear it too, the soft, lingering promise of a love that refused to die, a moon-bound whisper. I find you. You choose me. We break it, together. If this story stayed with you, if it made your chest ache, your heart race, or your soul feel seen, stay with us here at Moonbound Whispers, where destiny meets the forbidden. Subscribe for more paranormal romance, fated mate stories, and haunting love tales that linger even after the audio fades. Until next time, keep your heart brave, your soul curious, and your light burning, even in the dark.